I can't wait. Duke basketball is almost here. On Friday, countdown to craziness. We get to see what this team actually looks like. Let's discuss all of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It is so great to be with you here today on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We're so excited today to be talking about Countdown to Craziness coming our way on Friday. The first look at this 2024-2025 Duke basketball team. Going to be a big season, a lot of expectations, and who better to have that conversation with today than our good pal Josh Cox from Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast, who was with us on yesterday's show. So back with us 2 consecutive days. Excited to dive in with him. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Really appreciate your support every time that you do that. So without further ado, let's get set to bring him on into the program. Here he is, Josh Cox, back with us once again. Different sport today, Josh, but we're both really excited about this Duke basketball season being on the horizon.
Yeah, there's not been as much hype around this program for several years, and rightfully so. And so it is officially basketball season. ACC Media Days take place next week. And basketball is right around the corner. I believe there are some early NBA preseason games taking place in Dubai this weekend. So Celtics Nuggets this weekend. So basketball's back, whether you like it or not.
It is. We had NBA Media Day yesterday. We had Duke had local media day for the basketball team this past Friday. So, I mean, it's here. A lot of storylines, talking points that we've been having over several months are now coming into the fold, coming into fruition, and we get to talk about this Duke basketball team. We get to see them take the floor this Friday, and yet the most exciting part for so many people, as we discussed last week with Kevin Conley, Josh, is simply going to be the player introductions, right? Because in some ways, what really can you take away from Countdown other than just like, okay, this is legit, this is real, this is what these guys look like in Duke uniforms?
Oh yeah, and their personalities get to come out. You know, you think you know these guys by following maybe their recruitment in high school and whatnot, but you really get to see their personalities begin to show, even more through those intros and the way they interact with the fans. And you get to see that some of the guys are a little bit more low key, maybe, and other guys are going to be a little bit more not so low key. You know, Jared McCainish, there with their stuff, and so. I mean, it's going to be great. I think there's always like debate about, what's going to be their song and like, what are they, how are they going to interact? And so, I'm definitely looking forward to kind of catching and figuring out what their vibe's going to be like.
Dude, I love the everydayers. I love them here on Locked On Blue Devils. And for my everydayers, I'm going to set a record here. And that record is, this is the first time that the first player I mention for this Duke basketball team is Stanley Borden. And I'm doing it right now. Mark it down. What a day we have here, because his intros over the years have been amazing. Everyone remembers a couple of seasons ago, he pulls out the saxophone and the long black trench coat. I mean, he's got something up his sleeves. I don't know exactly what it is, but anytime you've got 7-foot walk-ons from Turkey who are able to get Cameron as energized as someone like Stanley Borden is, like, let's go, man.
Hey, that's his Super Bowl. Nothing against the guy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is what he lives for. This is why he's on. This is why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, I know he's a great practice player and helps the bigs go against some length in practice.
Now, hey, by the way, that's some size for them to be going up against. Like, how many walk-ons 100%. Do you have walking around these college campuses that are his size?
Yeah, for sure. And for him, as far as forward-facing, fan-facing, this is his moment to shine. And so. Definitely looking forward to seeing what Stanley, brings to the table. And by the way, have run into him and seen him kind of interacting around campus and at football games and whatnot. And the guy seems to be absolutely just soaking in the Duke experience, like absolutely loving, just being around campus and being on campus, being a student.
No lie. Excited to see that. All right, let's get into some of the other players And let's get into countdown specifically. What is that thing? Like, what is something that you're looking for as we get into Friday, Josh?
Well, Duke is, several years ago moved away from kind of the dunk contest kind of showcase, in that sense. And so, look, this is not being clickbaitish here. I'm just being honest. I really can't wait to see Cooper Flagg in a Duke uniform running up and down the floor on, at Cameron Indoor Stadium. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to see Cooper Flagg in not the element that he'll be in during the season, because obviously he's going against teammates, but I want to see him just out there and playing basketball. Yeah, for sure. I want to see, honestly, he's probably a little bit more mellow in his intro, but the fan base is going to be rabid over him. And so just to see how he kind of soaks that all in and takes that. And then I would say he's 1A, and then 1B is come on. I want to see this dude, man, you talk about just a crazy story and a success story, and shout out to Luol Deng and Duke University for making this happen. But, we're having legitimate player comps with Derek Lively and come on saying, I've been studying his game and the year that he had at Duke and now what he's doing in the pros. And there's potential for something really special there.
Yeah, I'm so fired up for him. I think he's such a big interior presence for this Duke basketball team. I love the mic'd ups that we've had recently from Coach Shire, letting the team know, throw the ball at the rim. Let this guy make some plays. He's huge. Talking about size, Common's going to be a big-time playmaker for this Duke basketball team. Those are some of the newcomers. Con Knipple, Isaiah Evans, Darren Harris coming on really strong. And then, of course, Friday, we get to see two players return. Tyrese Proctor, his third time going through the Countdown to Craziness festivities. And then back from injury, back for his sophomore year, Caleb Foster.
Yeah, look, I believe what you're going to see in this new era of college athletics, and more specifically college basketball, I believe you're going to see these fan bases really show the returning guys a ton of love, right? You saw it last year with the fan base and how they rallied around Jeremy Roach for being a senior and coming back to Duke. I believe you're going to see that for Tyrese. You're going to see that for Caleb Foster. It's not lost on these fans that, many of their teammates from last year sought greener pastures elsewhere, and these guys stayed, understanding that they were staying under the same, lack of promise, right? That Coach Shire told everyone, I'm not guaranteeing you a spot. I'm not guaranteeing you playing time. You're going to come back and have to earn it and fit into the mold that we need you to fit into for this team. And these two guys specifically, and Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster, have said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do maybe the hard thing. I want to make this my home. And I think Duke students and fans are going to really, show their appreciation to those two guys.
Countdown to Craziness coming up on Friday. So much to talk about with this Duke basketball team, and we'll continue that conversation with our good pal Josh Cox when we return here in a moment on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Filtering out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks with the curation makes it easier to save so much more on sports, concert, comedy, theater events, and more. It's the lowest price guarantee. Your Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Back on the show today, Josh Cox is here with us from Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast, also on X at Joshua Cox. He's known to throw out some few basketball thoughts on social media throughout the year, and you get to start doing that again on Friday, man. It's here.
Yeah, I've got to become my basketball self. I've been my football self for the past few months, and so got to transition to my basketball stuff. Also, by the way, I wanted to say that ad read gets me in the mood for basketball, man.
Yeah.
What time is it? Game time? I mean, that's the old Chicago Bulls back in the day, man. That was Jordan's thing in the huddle. So
No kidding.
Gets me ready to go. But yeah, it is time to well, I'm not transitioning away from football by any stretch of the imagination, but it is time to transition a little bit into talking a little bit more about basketball, and for good reason.
Our life now. Yeah,
exactly, for good reason. I mean, listen, there's a lot of chirping going on in the Duke basketball universe now. We are what is it currently? Is it 9th preseason ranking?
Yes. Yep.
And if I'm Duke, I'm thinking that's perfect. That's cool. We get the respect of being in the top 10. We're not top 3. There's not an automatic, target on our back per se at the very beginning of the season. Duke's got a very difficult non-conference schedule. Gives maybe Duke a little bit of time to get their feet underneath them. But there's cause for, a lot of anticipation around this basketball team.
Without a doubt. I'm excited to see what this basketball team is going to be able to do. They've got a lot of questions that will begin to be answered early in the season. You talk a lot about rotation and who's going to be in the mix for this Duke team, getting to see these freshman players day by day, step by step, get closer to the season. It's crazy to think about the fact, Josh, we only had really one video put out by Duke basketball with kind of like an uncut scrimmage highlights, where in years past we had a little bit more. In the Duke Blue Plated episodes, we've had several features from within side practice. By no means am I questioning what Duke Blue Plated and the men's basketball social media program is putting out there and doing. But I mean, in some ways, what are these groups of 5 going to look like for this Duke basketball team? Because as John Rothstein from CBS Sports noted last week, it got some buzz on the internet that he was at practice, put out his starting 5 for the Duke basketball team, his predictions on it, and it didn't feature Caleb Foster, and that got a lot of people talking.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you and I have enough history to know that sometimes when the Duke men's basketball team puts out a lot of content, we get our hopes up about certain players, and it doesn't come to fruition. We won't name any names, but they're just no longer wearing a Duke uniform.
Shooter,
literally hasn't missed on these, and
still hasn't,
still hasn't for sure. But no, I think it's. I mean, I understand. First of all, John Rothstein is no friend of Duke University, right? So let's just put that out there. He's historically been kind of a Duke hater, and is kind of always stirring the pot there. Around Duke basketball. And so let's just call that, the way it is. But hey, listen, does it shock me? I mean, there's only 5 players that could start. JJ,
right.
And this team is deep, and you have 2 guys that absolutely can be the lead guard in Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster. There's no question about that. And now, my personal opinion is I believe Jon Scheyer is going to err on the side of his veterans. And I believe that whether it's at the beginning of the season or when they get into ACC play, I do feel like you're going to see some of the older guys kind of rise to the top in that rotation. Don't hold me to that. I obviously have there's no way of knowing that. But I don't think it's crazy to think that, that Duke could throw a starting lineup out there that features Tyrese Proctor as the lead 1 guard, and then a variety of options there at the 2, whether you go, with a Sion James or, even go maybe bigger with a Con, and I don't know. There's a lot of options there. I mean, listen, the social media team was promoting Darren Harris the other day. I mean, right. I think he went 8 for 8 in a scrimmage where the media was there. Like,
it's pretty good.
Who knows, man? Like that there's so many options. And if you're Jon Scheyer and you're a head coach, you're thinking like, wow, like what a great blessing to have all of these options. And my job is to figure it out, right? There's a lot of coaches that are like, I wish I had options. I've got this one guy that is going to be my point guard, and that's everything rises and falls on him. And Duke's not that way.
Yeah.
Listen, Tyrese Proctor could start the season out, and then we all know last year the up and down kind of struggles that Tyrese had. and Caleb could step right in, or vice versa. Who knows? But all that to say, not trying to give John Rothstein any credit, but I understand what he's saying, that there is a universe out there in which Caleb Foster's not the starting point guard.
Yeah, and I mean, in some ways, you look at also what people have been talking about is okay, he's at one practice, and you're trying to divide up these teams to play blue-white teams. It's going back and forth, being able to tinker with lineups. Maybe this is a day in which Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster weren't on the same team. Or another conversation, maybe that's kind of always been the case because those two guys are going to be the primary ball handlers for the Duke basketball team. And so why not in practice settings get them the most reps kind of running a team so that when they're on the floor together, it's easier. Someone can go off ball, someone can go on ball. But in these practice settings, like, let's make sure they get plenty of reps handling the basketball because, look, turnovers have killed this Duke team and many other teams over previous seasons, and want to make sure that they're able to take care of that basketball.
Yeah, I mean, what you really have, and we're not necessarily talking about the depth chart here, but like what you really have is you have the 1 and 2 guards spots that are going to be, between Proctor, Foster, Darren Harris, and Isaiah Evans maybe as the 2, and then at that kind of wing spot, you've got your Cons, your Gillis, your Sion James, kind of at that 3 spot, and then you can't just keep working down. I mean, Cooper's obviously going to play a ton of minutes, and come on, like you're going to see that. Like those are that just is what it is. Like so, and then you got Malik Brown, who is all ACC first team defense. Like he's working his way in there. I believe there may be some games where we do kind of a small ball 5, and like we're able to really guard, everywhere, playing against smaller teams. And so I think I've said this before in some of our offseason pods. I'm just super intrigued to see how Jon Scheyer operates this season. I am a believer in Jon Scheyer and what he's doing. I think he's a brilliant guy, and I can't wait to see how he manages his roster.
Without a doubt. I'm excited to see it all come together as well. And look, it's going to be here very, very soon, coming our way on Friday. We also talked about the fact that on Monday, it was NBA Media Day. For our final segment today, just a couple of thoughts. What do we need to know? What are some storylines to be following? Blue Devils at the next level. That's coming up here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get in the hunch in the middle of the game, maybe it's tomorrow night, a fun NFC South matchup for Thursday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe you're watching the game and you want to check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more. Well, you can do that all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel is an official sponsor of the National Football League, and FanDuel also proudly supports Locked On Blue Devils. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson. He's Josh Cox. All right, let's wrap this up. We saw NBA Media Day come and go yesterday. You and I are big basketball junkies, as is the Duke world. Get to see several players wearing new jerseys, playing for new teams. The teams that have several Duke guys on their roster are always really exciting to follow. What are some of those storylines for you, Josh, that you want to see this season?
I mean, it has to start with the world champions, right? The Boston Celtics. Obviously, we know that Emil Jefferson is up there and on the staff. We know that future Duke head coach Brad Stevens is the GM there. Just kidding. But no, Jayson Tatum is the obvious starting point, I believe, there. And it's going to be interesting to see. It was well documented, his struggles at the Olympics. You have to wonder if he was just, out of gas.
Right.
He had done a whole lot to carry that Celtics team. He sure did. And so that's the storyline to follow. Can the Celtics do what they're doing and continue to do what they've been doing? And that's going to, fall heavily, on guys like Jayson Tatum, obviously Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday and others. But you also have Al Horford, who is retired. from basketball since last season, and he was a major part of what they did as well. So that's where I'm going to start. The second one, I believe, is the guy who's going to take the next big leap, and I think everybody is seeing it happen before their eyes. It's in Orlando, and it's Paolo Banchero. I believe Paolo is going to be an all NBA performer this year. I believe he's going to take the next step of leadership on that roster. He already was, the man on that team last season, and they made the playoffs. I think they'll do the same. They locked up Franz Wagner as well on an extension, and now Paulo's getting into that zone where he's going to be able to sign his second contract, and right,
Yep.
you want to be able to max that out, and so I look for that as my second storyline. I think it's going to be interesting, and then a third storyline, Duke related, is Kyrie Irving, right?
Yeah.
Like, he had an incredible run last season. He and Luka played really good basketball together.
Right.
Another Dookie, Derek Lively, on that team.
Yep.
They make a great playoff run, fall short in the conference finals. But can Kyrie Irving put together a second season of drama-free hooping, man? Just like we know he's a hooper. Like they talk about Kevin Durant as a hooper, Kyrie Irving is a hooper. Can he put together a second season of like blocking out all the noise, and I'm playing basketball for the Dallas Mavericks, right? Like that's what I'm doing. And then Derek Lively, it's the evolution, right, of Derek Lively. Can he just continue to progress? I mean, 7'1". I mean, that I saw a brief clip from one of a media interaction that he had a couple of days ago of like worked on his jumper and his shooting, and like if Lively, because we know he can shoot the ball.
Right.
If he could add the 3-point shot, to his arsenal, like he becomes extremely dangerous. Like Tyson Chandler, but with a 3-point shot. Like that's pretty wild. So that's my three. Do you have any on your end? There's obviously a lot of Duke.
Let me give three. Let me give three. So, and I'll go three. We didn't prepare this at all, but I'm able to go. All. Hey, three off the cuff, baby, right here. So, can we get a fully healthy Zion Williamson season in New Orleans with Brandon Ingram back for another year? There's been a lot of offseason chatter. Is it time for the Pelicans to move on from Brandon Ingram? Is it time for the Pelicans to move on from Zion Williamson? As crazy as that seems, all of a sudden we feel like my buddy Jake Madison with Locked On Pelicans trying to talk about their future there. But yeah, that's what's happening in New Orleans right now. If we can get a healthy season out of Zion, I think it's so great for basketball. Fresh off the Team USA run, you're kind of thinking about, okay, who's next on this leader of American basketball players? And we're talking about Cooper Flagg a whole lot throughout this season. Let's not forget about Zion. Let's have this massive turnaround. I want that guy leading the charge in 2028, and I think it starts with the big season this year. So that's one of them, Josh.
I like that. I mean, if you don't forget, before Brandon Ingram got hurt last season, they were number 2 in the West.
Yeah,
New Orleans was second in the West, and this was into December and January. They were second in the West. And then injuries plugs it, and they've added Murray, DeJounte Murray, who can take some pressure off of Zion and is creating. Anyway, I know it's not this isn't Locked On Pelicans, but I can talk Pelicans basketball for a while. So.
Okay, here's the next one, and this one, I think this one could get more run. It will get more run at times than even Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics throughout the course of the season. How about the Los Angeles Lakers being led by a first-year head coach, JJ Redick? We can go further and let you know that Cam Reddish is back and looking to be a part of their rotation throughout the course of this season. But JJ Redick making his coaching debut. We're big fans of his former podcast where he talks often about his days coaching 3rd and 4th graders. Now it's LeBron James and Anthony Davis for basketball's most storied franchise.
I mean, get thrown into the fire, Mr. Redick. That's all I can say. I mean, you're definitely starting at the top, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on JJ Redick and on this Lakers team. First of all, I would say that I believe he's extremely capable. I believe anybody who thought that maybe he wasn't, if they followed what turned into a mini series called Mind the Game, which was JJ Redick and LeBron James's podcast, you saw that people say LeBron James is the most brilliant mind in basketball. Well, JJ Redick is right there with him. And so
Yep.
you saw those guys on the same wavelength. I think that's important. I do think it's also important to know that like that Lakers roster is still the Lakers roster. And there's not but so much you can do with that roster. That is not an NBA title roster. It's not. This is the Lakers taking care of their superstar, LeBron James, just like they took care of Kobe Bryant, just like they took care of Magic Johnson. That's what the Lakers do. That's why everybody that's a big name likes going to the Lakers, because they take care of their guys. If AD sticks it out with the Lakers, they're going to do the same thing for AD. So I think tempering the expectations there for JJ Redick in his first season. And then, I mean, we've been waiting 5-6 years now for Cam Reddish, the high school potential of Cam Reddish
This is year
to
6.
show up. Year 6, correct. It's about time. Maybe Cam Reddish has his breakout season. I mean, we're all well aware of the YouTube clips from back in the day. Cam Reddish is the hardest guy I ever had to guard. And let's show it in the NBA. What a great opportunity.
Stay healthy. He's also got to stay healthy, and we'll see if he's able to do that. The Lakers have a starting 5, and that's about it. It's a bit of a drop off there, and that's why there's big reason for Cam Reddish to come along. All right, last one, and then we're up on time here that I'm thinking of today. We already talked about the Pelicans, but they're who I'm thinking of right now in the spirit of the storyline I'm about to present. A couple of seasons ago, we had 5 Duke players on the Pelicans. This season, Josh, I'm looking through photos yesterday from Media Day, and it dawns on me, I think the team lead this year is in Phoenix. All of a sudden, the Phoenix Suns have 3 Duke guys with Grayson Allen, who was there a season ago, and they bring in Tyus Jones and Mason Plumlee. They've got some superstars on their team, but all 3 of those Duke guys are actually going to have a role on the Phoenix Suns team this year, which is really cool.
Listen, maybe the most underrated point guard in the NBA is Tyus Jones. I mean, my man flies under the radar.
Every year.
Listen, he and Grayson have a great relationship. Back to the 2015 national championship season, they were recruited together. They were freshmen together on that team. Obviously, they took different paths to the NBA. Tyus leaving after 1 season and Grayson staying for all 4 at Duke. But Grayson led the league in 3-point shooting last year, and it doesn't look like he's gonna relinquish that crown if it's up to him. Mason Plumlee is one of the most athletic big men. Still a little bit awkward on the offensive side of the of the ball, but they're not asking him to be.
I was going to say, Tyus and Grayson won a national championship with one Plumlee brother, and now they get to play with another one.
That's right, and I forgot about
Marshall.
Man, what's the Marshall? That's right. I'm getting these guys confused. But it'll be interesting, and I will say, I'm a what is that, League Pass? I'm a League Pass guy. In fact, they went up $10. I just got my notification, but I'm an NBA League Pass guy. The Phoenix Suns will be on my League Pass.
There you go.
For sure. Along with the Orlando Magic, the Pelicans, and I'm going to throw one. This is honorable mention.
Okay.
The 76ers, baby.
There you go. The fingernails.
The fingernails.
The debut.
Listen, they've added Paul George. They've locked in Maxey. They've locked in Embiid. McCain's going to have a role on this team. It's probably going to be off the bench, more than likely. But he's going to have a role. He's going to bring in some spark in the offense and some offense. And who knows? I'm interested to see. I think Philly's a tough fan base, right? And you add painting your nails into that, and Philly really gets to be a tough fan base.
Right.
But I think they're going to embrace this guy. I think he's a winner. And he, as we know, JJ, we watched him for a season. He loves the game of basketball, and he's got one of the most incredible spirits.
Well, they've got another guy who paints his nails in Kelly Oubre Jr., who had one of the best entrances at a Media Day podium yesterday. If you missed that, go check it out. It's all over the place. Josh, it is so good to see you, man. I look forward to talking again soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Go Duke basketball.
Yes. We'll see you, Josh.
See you.
That's Josh Cox joining us on today's show. Go support all his work with Duke Football Talk, Section 17 podcast, and more. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.